I just did a 14-day time audit and it's changed my business. It's changed my life. And I'm going to share with you my 7 biggest takeaways that I learned that's helping me be more efficient and more effective so that you can be more efficient and more effective in your life and spend your time doing more of what you want. Here we go. A quick interruption. If you're too busy to set goals, or if you're unsure what the right goals are for you, or if you're just not clear on what's next for you in your business, in your life, I've got the solution you've been looking for. Join my free 7-day course designed for athletic-minded men who want to maximize their potential in business and life. And I'm going to help you create a clear plan for achieving your biggest goals faster. So if you feel like you're driving with the parking brake on, if you feel like you're going 100 miles an hour all day long, but not really moving the needle in your life, get started with me today. Get instant access to this 7-day course where you and I will get to interact live with each other. Plus, you'll have access to a community of like-minded, high-performing, athletic-minded, competitive men looking to unlock their next level as well. Just visit jimharshawjr.com/free. That's jimharshawjr.com/free. Now, back to the show. We're talking about a 14-day time audit that I learned. Lessons from a 2-week time audit that you can take and apply to your life so you can be more efficient, more importantly, more effective, spend more time working on the things you want to work on, spend more time with your family, spend more time working out. It is really surprising what you can learn from doing a 14-day time audit. So I'm going to talk to you about how I did it, why I did it, what I learned, and then sort of some takeaways from you, right? If you think about your life as an athlete, right? This podcast is really for athletic-minded men. You know, when we were competing, we had, a win-loss record. We have a scoreboard. Maybe you track your bench press, you track your 40 time, you watch film, right? What about applying those concepts to other areas of your life that you want to improve, right? How about time management? How about productivity? One of the things that we do in my coaching program in Reveal Your Path is we have designed a goal setting tool that you track your progress. It's color coded. You're getting percentage scores every month. You're setting your goals and then your micro goals each month, and you can see how you're doing in each category. You can see how you're doing overall in all the categories in a given month. You can see how you're doing overall in your entire life. It's a fascinating tool. It's a scoreboard. It's a way to know what your win-loss record is. And we need this in other areas of our lives. So we need to have this in our life now. And this time audit that I did really took all of that to another level. This was like watching film. It was like breaking down film of how I'm operating on a day-to-day basis. I remember watching film when I was wrestling. I'd after practice in the evenings, I would, surprise knock on my coach's doors at their apartment, drive to their apartment and knock on their door and be like, hey man, let's watch some film. And we'd watch film, we'd break it down and, figure out what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong and where I can make adjustments. And those film sessions made all the difference. And one of the things actually that I did, this is a little side note, one of the things that I would do every day before practice was in my locker, in my wrestling shoes, I would have a Post-it note, right? Not a Post-it note. It was actually like a little 2-inch by 3-inch notepad, like super small. And I kept it in my wrestling shoes. And during those film sessions, I would write down a couple of 2-3 things that I wanted to work on over the next week or so. And I would keep that notebook in my wrestling shoes. So when I came into the locker room to get ready for practice, I would grab my wrestling shoes, pull the notepad out. I'd read those 2 or 3 things and I would plant them into my mind. So I would go into practice with an intention. And then I would put that notepad in my tennis shoes or my street shoes. And then I'd go to practice, come back after practice. I would have to take that notepad out of my shoes and put it back into my wrestling shoes. And I would take it out of my shoes. I would look at it again, and it would be just a quick productive pause, a quick evaluation of how did I do? Did I work on these things? Was I aware of working on these things? Did I improve in these areas? Do I need to cross one off and add a new one? Is there something else that came up? And in this tracking, this simple system for measuring what I did and how productive I was, for example, at a given practice, changed everything. It changed my life. It changed how I competed. It changed how I practiced. It gave me focus and intention and clarity on this micro level, on a day-to-day level in practice. It was really, really powerful. So I learned about this concept of the time audit, which is taking these concepts of tracking and win-loss records, scoreboard, or this sort of little system that I had to have intention in my practices each day. If you take that idea, that concept, the time audit is really the application of that philosophy to your life. right? It's breaking down film and it's tracking, scoring, seeing how we're doing. And so what I'm going to share with you today are 5 things. Number 1, why I did this. Number 2, how I did it, the actual mechanism, the process that I used. And it's really easy, and I'm actually going to provide you a tool to do this yourself. Number 3, what I learned, exactly what I learned. And then number 4, the changes that I'm making from what I learned. And then number 5 are the tips for you, actual specific takeaways, things that you can do based upon what I learned. Okay, so why do one of these? Well, you've heard the research out there, and you've probably just felt it more than anything. The research tells us that, and this is from Zippia, which is a like a online job search tool. They said that 82% of people lack an effective system for managing their time, and it leads to 51% of their workday being allocated to less productive, less valuable activities. Right? Here's another statistic. This was from, and by the way, I'm going to have links to where I got all these statistics. I'm going to have links to these in the action plan. But this one is about the idea that people have, on average, at least the people that were interviewed for this, surveyed, tried out 13 different methods for managing their time, which sounded pretty high, but I'm thinking to myself, like, wow, if you kind of really list out all the different ideas and things you've heard over time, maybe you've tested them, tried them, there might be 13 different things that you've tried in different ways, shapes, or form for managing your time. But only 18% of people adopt any of these actual techniques. You think of like time blocking and the Pomodoro technique and the Eisenhower matrix and different ways that you've heard about time management. Most people don't even really apply these on a consistent basis. Here's another statistic. People who are committed to time management are 57% more successful at completing tasks promptly. How about that? Would you take that? Would you take a 57% increase in your productivity and your success at completing tasks promptly? That would change your life. Think about how that would change your life, right? Think about how that would give you time back. What would you do at that time? Maybe you would reinvest that into work and making more money, or maybe you would spend that with your family, or maybe you would work out more. Think about how that would change your life. And I don't care what level you're operating at, by the way. Like I feel like I'm operating at a pretty high level in terms of my time management and my productivity. But I feel like I was a college All-American wrestler. Like I feel like I'm operating at like an All-American level, but there's like Olympians and then there's Olympic champions. Like there's so much more room. There's like so much more room to grow here. So this is another reason why I wanted to do it. I want to, think about if I can be 57% more successful, that would change my life in so many ways, and it would change your life. Here's the last statistic I'm going to share with you. And I've heard a statistic similar to this before. The average employee is only productive for 2 hours and 53 minutes per day. And I was like, no way, that is crazy. That doesn't make any sense. I'm way more productive than that. I learned that I'm a lot less productive than I thought I was by doing this time audit. And listen, I can share with you all kinds of statistics, but really, why should you do one of these? Why did I feel like I need to do one of these? I mean, most of us feel like we're going 100 miles an hour all day long and we're getting 100 things done, but we don't really feel like we're moving the needle on our life, right? You feel like you're pulled in a million different directions. Like there's not enough time in the day. You're feeling the stress. You're feeling the burnout. Maybe you're feeling that pressure in your marriage, or you're not getting your health, your workouts in, your health is not in line with where you want it to be, right? There's all kinds of reasons why we know that it would be helpful if we were more productive so that we can get the things done we need to get done and then move on. You'll be surprised at where your time goes. I was really surprised at where my time goes, right? Emails, quick breaks, the minutia. The goal of doing this for me was efficiency to some extent, but it's less efficiency. Like efficiency is like basically doing the same thing, but just doing it faster. But it's more about effectiveness, like doing higher value work. Is there work that I'm doing that I shouldn't be doing? Can I delegate it? There's the 4 Ds. Should I be doing it? Should I delegate it? Should I delete it? Or should I delay it? Right? Those are the 4 Ds. Should you do something, or should you delegate it to somebody else to do? Should I just delete it and not do it at all? Right? Is it just, if I just don't do this, is it okay to just not even do that thing, or just delay it, right? Kick the can down the road. Maybe this is something that I can prioritize at a different time. So that's the why behind doing a time audit. I told you, there's 5 things I want to share with you: why, how, what I learned, and then, the changes I'm making, and then, tips for you, like what actual takeaways for you. So I shared with you the why. So how? Let me share with you how. This is pretty simple. I'm reading a book called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. Really great book. It was recommended to me by several really great entrepreneurs who I'm just, I'm in a mastermind group with these guys, and they're just really, really high level. They're sort of the, maybe they're Olympians, right? Above my level. And that's who I aspire to be like. So I'm like learning from these guys. And two different guys recommended this book. One of them said, he's like, I've read it 3 times. So I actually listened to the book on audio, and then I bought the hard copy, and it's just fantastic. So Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. And I've heard about doing a time audit for years. I've wanted to do one. I've done it I've started doing it a couple times, but never really followed through. But finally I did it. And here's all I did. I just took out, I had a notebook, a separate notebook, and I kept it on my desk. If you're watching me on YouTube, you'll kind of see where I'm sitting here. I just have, I had my notepad. I had it right here beside me. I had a pen, kept it right on top of this notepad. And by the way, if you're not on YouTube, you're not checking me out on YouTube, please go give me a subscribe and comment and like on YouTube. We're really trying to invest more into our YouTube presence. And that would really help. Just getting your subscription, getting you to like and comment on this video or any other videos. Those always help YouTube to realize that people value this stuff, bumps our videos up in the algorithm. So thank you for that. So I kept this notepad and pen on my desk. And the easiest way to do this was to set a 15-minute timer. I had a recurring timer, and I'm going to have a link to that timer in the action plan. Go to jimharshawjr.com/action to get the action plan. If you're subscribed to my email list, this will be in your inbox. This comes to you every Monday. The whole entire action plan just gets delivered to you with all the links and tools and takeaways, best quotes from these episodes, etc. So make sure you get on that email list. But I'll have a link to that. It was just at a website called intervaltimer.com, and then you have to go to the 15-minute timer. We've already done that. I have that link for you in the action plan. But every 15 minutes, this would go off. And I would just write a very shorthand note of what I was doing and the whatever time it was, right? 10 o'clock, emails. 10:15, invoicing. 10:30, still invoicing. 10:45, working on some other project. So I'm writing this down and tracking it all day long. And super simple, easy way to do it. And that's the system, right? Don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. I have a template that we created, and we're putting it in the action plan. So we're going to link it right into the action plan. It's a Google Doc. You can just download this, or you can download it, or you can print it. I think printing it is actually the best way to do it. It's the fastest way to just pick up your pen and write something down. I do like doing everything digitally, but printing it is a really quick and easy way to actually reduce the friction to making this actually happen for you. So go ahead and print that. And then the next thing here I want to talk about. So I talked about why, I talked about how, and I'm going to give you the 7 things that I learned. Number 1, this is really, really critical. I was most productive. I was most effective at doing the things that I know I need to work on, as opposed to, say, email or minutia, things like that. I was most productive when I started my day with my startup routine. My startup routine is very simple. I write down in my journal, which is right next to me. I write down 3 things I'm grateful for. And then I write down 3 things that will make today great. And then I write, I visualize 3 different affirmations, 3 different things in my head about my life and my business and my marriage and my health and family, etc. So I have these 3 sort of affirmations that I do. So that's a very simple morning routine. Right? I start with that. The next thing I do is I read my Pathfinder vision. So I talked about the Pathfinder vision a few episodes ago. Go back and check out that episode. That's episode number 463. It talks to you about exactly how to go about creating your Pathfinder vision. It's based off the concept of the definite chief aim from Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, which is a super popular book. If you listen to, most successful people who I know, they know that book. They've probably read that book multiple times. And so we have a version of the definite chief aim. It's taking not only into account this concept of the definite chief aim, but it's also saying there should be a personal and a professional vision for your life, and how to make this a little bit more practical and real and present, as opposed to wishing, hoping something in the future. So I review that, and then the last thing I do is I review my micro goals for the month. If I do that simple morning routine every day, I am more productive. I'm getting things done. Now, here's an example of what happened a couple weeks ago when I was doing this time audit. We're watching a friend of ours. He has a puppy and went on vacation. He's like, hey man, can you watch our puppy for a week? Sure, absolutely. We already have two dogs, and one's a 6-year-old Sprudel. He's a Springer Doodle, and then we have a Wheaton Terrier mixed with a poodle, a Woodle, it's called. All right, so we got a Sprudel and a Woodle. I'm embarrassed to say that out loud, actually. So we got a Sprudel and a Woodle. The Woodle is a puppy, and we inherited him from a family member who could no longer take care of him. He's a puppy. He's like, I don't know, 7 months old, something like that now. And now we're taking on this other puppy who's 3 months old. And it just totally threw off our morning routine. The cutest dog. I was so happy to watch him. It was like actually a pleasure watching him this time. But I would wake up, and when we're watching him, it's like it just throws off our morning routine. So one morning, I went and worked out, and I came home, and I didn't want to disturb the puppy. came home at like 6:30 or 6:40 in the morning after my workout. Didn't want to disturb the puppy, who was sleeping upstairs in bed with my wife. So I stayed downstairs. I jumped on my computer, got ready to work, and by the time everybody in the house woke up, and I got upstairs and showered, it was like 7:30, 8 o'clock by the time, or after 8 o'clock by the time I got into my office. And I'm normally in the summer, I'm in my office by 7 o'clock, 7:30. And my whole morning routine was thrown off, and I wasn't productive all day, right? And I didn't do my startup routine because I just felt like it was too late in the day to do my morning routine. And I just jumped in, and I was just all over the place, all over the map. End of the day, I felt like, man, what did I even work on today? I felt like I got a lot done, but I wasn't even really productive during the day. So that was a big takeaway: is what is your startup routine, right? What is the startup routine that's going to help you, that helps you go into the day being productive? Think of the book, Make Your Bed, right? That concept of make your bed it's a productive thing that you do in the beginning of the day that sets you off psychologically in the right direction. All right, that's number one. I told you there's 7 things. That was number one. Number 2 is delegate to elevate. Delegate to elevate, right? I found myself working on minutia a lot more often than I realized. I knew there's minutia. I just didn't realize how often I was working on this minutia. And this is stuff that I didn't have to be doing, right? You go back to the 4 Ds, do it. Yeah, there are certain things that I had to do. Could I delegate it? Can somebody else do this? Could I delay it, right? Could I just not do this now? Or could I actually delete it? And so this minutia, I realized a lot of it had to be done, did not have to be done by me. So now I'm creating new systems, and I'm enrolling other people in my company to do those things, to do that minutia. And what does that look like for you? If you're an entrepreneur, you can hire, right? Or if you're in an entrepreneurial type of role, like a financial advisor, or if you're in sales where you have a lot more control over your destiny, you kind of eat what you kill. Who can you hire? Who can you bring in to your organization? You're like, oh, Jim, I can't hire somebody. I can't hire like a full-time person. How about overseas? Can you hire somebody remotely, virtually, and have them help you with some of the stuff that is bogging you down? It's probably going to be hard for you to figure out exactly what those things are and really get that crystallized until you do this time audit, but that will be a big takeaway for you. Who can you enroll into your vision to help them, get them to buy in? Now, if you're an employee, same thing. Who can you enroll in your vision you can maybe delegate to them, work as a team, work together on something, as opposed to you doing everything, right? There are different ways to do this based upon your role. And the other thing is, like, just stop being perfect, right? Some of this stuff, 80% is good enough. Some of it, 60% might be good enough, right? Now, certain things, 95 or 100% is good enough. So you have to figure out what is the stuff that is actually not that important to do 100%. And I remember there was actually an email that I wrote. It took me like 25 minutes to write this email. And it was an important email. I actually wrote to a friend of mine who's on the football coaching staff at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville, where I live. And I bumped into him the day before at an event. UVA just built a huge, awesome football operations center. It's beautiful. It's amazing. And I actually helped fundraise for it years ago when I was a fundraiser. And it's finally come to fruition. It's completely done. It's, totally built. And I bumped into him, and I'm like, hey, and I followed up with an email. I'm like, hey man, if I can ever help and serve and speak to the team and help you guys, let me know. I spent way too much time drafting that email, and I finally got that off. And I'm like, okay, some of this stuff can be done at 80 or 90%, and that's good enough. Here's another takeaway. So I told you there are 7. First one is, morning routine, getting that startup routine. Second one is delegate to elevate, or the 4Ds, using the 4Ds. Third one is personal stuff. I have a shed office in my backyard. We had a shed built and it's amazing. It's like, I'm out here here right now. I'm looking over at the house and my family's in there. And in the summertime, kids are off school. It's so easy for me to go in the house, fill up my coffee, get a drink of water, get a snack, whatever it is, and then hang out with the kids and talk and engage with my wife and that sort of thing during the day. It's fun. It's great. It's one of the awesome things about being an entrepreneur and working from home. I also realized I was spending a lot more time doing that kind of thing than I realized. So, like I said, I do love it. Like, I was actually on a call yesterday. My daughter, my 10-year-old, she always comes out, like, nobody's home. My wife wasn't home. It was just me and her, and the older kids were out and about. And she, like, poked her head into my office. She held up her walkie-talkie and, like, just set it on the floor, and then she left. And I knew that meant that she was, like, going to be running around the neighborhood with her walkie-talkie, so hanging out with her friends. So I do love that. But I just realized, okay, this is a place where my time is going. All right, that was the third thing. Number 4 is context switching. This is a really important one for you to understand. Context switching. This is the process of stopping working on one thing, working on something else, and then coming back to that first thing, right? Or just going from one thing to another, to another, to another. There's a cognitive load that comes whenever you context switch. It has a huge drag on productivity. And according to a report, joint report by this company called Catalog, with a Q, in Cornell University's Idea Lab, quote, on average, people take 9.5 minutes to get back into a productive workflow after switching between digital apps. Is that crazy? And I know you're sitting there thinking, 9.5 minutes? No, not me. I can switch and keep on rolling. Trust me, it takes a lot longer than you think. When you become aware of the switching, the context switching, and the drag that puts on your productivity, you'll be surprised. A lot of times you'll find yourself checking your phone, checking text messages, or checking email in between switching contacts or switching apps or switching projects. And you know as well as I do the rabbit hole that email takes you down. So that was a big one for me, context switching, and feeling that cognitive load, that cognitive drain and drag on me every time I switched from one thing to another thing, especially if it was like a strategic thing to a tactical thing to a completely different tactical thing. This switching I can do it and you can do it. We do it all the time. It's just not the best use of our time, not the best way to structure our day. So here's another one. This is number 5. I found that I don't have enough CEO time. And you might be like, well, Jim, I'm not a CEO. But what is that strategic time that you need? Like, for me, it's working on marketing, it's brainstorming, it's whiteboarding, it's developing job descriptions. I use AI to help me do that, which helped me be more efficient in doing that. But actually, as I was going through this time audit, I already realized there were a new position or positions that I need to hire for, and I was developing these job descriptions as I went, because I'm like, oh my goodness, there's so much stuff that I'm doing that I shouldn't be doing. But that CEO time is what's required to actually create the job description. Doing the time audit, like that was I consider that really CEO time or strategic time. And for me, in my business, improving the Pathfinder experience, Pathfinders, that's our clients who are in Reveal Your Path. That's my number one driver, improving the Pathfinder experience. That only happens during CEO time. It only happens when I have the time to think. Right? There's a great quote by Henry Ford. He said, "Thinking is the hardest work there is, which is probably the reason why so few engage in it." There's another quote this reminds me of from Tim Ferriss. He said, "Being busy is a form of laziness." I'm paraphrasing, but being busy is a form of laziness, right? Being busy just means you're not putting the effort into thinking about what you're doing, how you're doing it. Can I do this better? Can I do this smarter? Can I be more efficient? And more importantly, can I be more effective at what I do? Because that's going to give you your time back. That's going to help you make more money. It's going to improve your marriage, help you work out more, etc. thinking. It's that CEO time. It's that strategic time. That was a big takeaway for me. All right, number 6 for me was not enough time with my people. Like, I'm a task oriented person. I'm a doer. I will format a spreadsheet for 30 minutes, you know? And it's like, I get into flow. I'm in the zone, man. I'm formatting this thing. I'm bolding and I'm italicizing and I'm changing colors of cells and, conditional formatting. Oh man, I can get into it. And it's like, do I really need to be doing that? No, this is not a high value task for me. And I do that kind of stuff in lieu of relationships. Now, I value relationships. Relationships is the first area in my program where we set goals. Even if your goal is to, unlock your career, switch careers, make more money, build your business, whatever it might be, like, we still start with relationships because that's the key piece of life. And I can find myself getting busy with tasks and, stuff that's important now. I got to put this fire out at my feet. It's urgent, but it's less important, right? If you're familiar with the Eisenhower matrix, the urgent, important matrix, there's a lot of things that I'll do that'll fall into that urgent, but not important, right? Or urgent and important, and that's not where you want to be operating. Urgent and not important for sure. Urgent and important, that's like you're putting fires out at your feet. It's the important but not urgent. That's the quadrant you want to be working in. And I find myself, doing tasks, which is really the point of a time audit. Like, what are the tasks you're doing and how much time are you putting into them? Is that the best use of your time? And so for me, a big takeaway was I need more time with my people, leading, mentoring, coaching, relationship building within my own business. This is, specifically with my team and the people who are operating and doing and making this thing work and making this grow and helping deliver the results for our clients that are amazing. And the last big takeaway for me was this general awareness of what I'm doing, right? This tracking habit created an awareness habit, a mindfulness habit for me. And whenever I find myself doing things, I'm still kind of in this habit of this waiting for this 15-minute timer to go off and having to report to myself, what have you been doing for the last 15 minutes? And just this general awareness was a huge, huge takeaway for me. So those are the 7 takeaways for me. My startup, my morning routine, the 4 Ds, like do, delegate, delete, or delay, how much time I'm putting into my personal stuff. The next one was context switching. The next one was CEO time. The next one, number 6, was not enough time with my people. And then number 7 was just this general awareness. Now, real quickly, the changes I'm making. I've talked with my coach about all of this. We're implementing strategies to improve my time management. I'm focused on doing less context switching. I'm batching more. I'm setting aside more time for CEO time, which allows me to batch and sort of think strategically. And then my tactical work, which might be meetings or invoicing or different, returning emails, that kind of thing. Those are for different times. So I'm really putting these bigger blocks of time into my schedule. And for you, that might be, if you're in sales, this might be planning your strategy or reviewing your own game film, whatever that might look for you, like for you. If you're a leader, this would be strategic planning or relationship building. I'm learning to delegate more effectively. I'm developing new systems and new processes and new job descriptions, hiring and delegating more. I'm making more time to connect with my team, and I'm making darn sure that I do my morning routine, even if it's just the minimum effective dose of it. And the benefits have been, productivity, making more money, more opportunity in my business, more time with my family, clarity of action, confidence in my path and where I'm going. And here's the last thing I told you I was going to share with you. What about you? What does this all mean for you? What are you going to do with this? Number 1, block time for strategic work, right? Systems, processes, high level strategy work. Block time for that. That's uninterrupted. Here's the second one. Block time for thinking, right? Pretty similar to what I just talked about, the strategic work, but it's a little bit different. Like thinking, this is the hardest work, Henry Ford said, which is why most people don't engage in it. It's hard work. What are the big questions you need to ask yourself? The productive pause questions, right? Again, I'll reference Tim Ferriss again. He talked about, am I chasing field mice or antelope? And he got that from somebody else. Am I chasing field mice or antelope? How can I 10x my results? What are the things that I'm not doing that if I were doing those would most impact my goals? asking yourself these big questions, asking yourself, doing the thinking that you need to do. Here's the third takeaway. So the first one is blocking time for strategic work. Second one is blocking time for thinking. Third one is invest in infrastructure, right? Infrastructure. When you're competing as an athlete, you had a coach, you had teammates around you. Like, do you have that in your life now? Do you have that infrastructure? Somebody calling you out, helping you see your blind spots, helping you see the things that you just can't see. Like, do you have that in your life? Do you have a coach? Do you have teammates? Do you have an accountability partner? But here's another one in terms of infrastructure. Invest money into it, right? Whether it's a coach, whether it's just paying for a tool like Calendly, or using that. Google has like a competitor now for Calendly, which is this Google Calendar appointment scheduling tool, where you're using that instead of emailing back and forth with people to set times for meetings. Like, what are the things that you can invest in, you can pay money for, that will give you back time, that will allow you to be more efficient, and like I said, more importantly, more effective. And lastly, do a time audit. Do a time audit. I told you in the action plan, there is a template that you can print out, and you can use this to do your own time audit. It's very simple, very easy to use. Also, go to Coach Jim AI, www.coachjimai.com, and you could get access to my AI. It is a download of my brain, my philosophies, and it has been trained on how to teach you to do your own time audit. So download and print out the template that I'm providing, and then go to coachjimai.com and ask him, him, it, whatever you want to call it. It's not me. It is a tool. It's a robot, right? This is a thing. It doesn't replace a human, but this is a great thinking tool to help you do some brainstorming about how to go about your time audit, why you should go about your time audit, and what you really want to get out of doing your own time audit. All right. I just gave you a lot of information. Now it's time for you to take action. Make it happen. Good luck.